Hello, my name's Bev and I'm the author of the book Please Eat, A Mother's Struggle to Free Her Teenage Son from Anorexia, which describes our family's battle with the deadly eating disorder, anorexia nervosa, which my teenage son Ben developed back in 2009 when he was just 15 years old. Welcome to July 2011, to my blog posts from July 2011. And I was going to introduce this particular post from the 3rd of July, but I think it really speaks for itself, so I'll just go ahead and read it to you. This post is from the 3rd of July 2011, and it's called Chatting to the Same Person on the Same Grassy Bank 2 years on. Yesterday was a school prize day, followed by the house sports day in the afternoon. Last year, at the height of Ben's anorexia, we didn't go to either, but this year we went to both, and Ben was helping out at the sports day, so I spent the afternoon sitting in the sun on the grassy bank overlooking the playing fields, just as I'd done 2 years ago when Ben was competing in the 1500 metres race. And just as I'd done 2 years ago, I got talking to the mum of the boy who Ben had beaten in that race. "Haven't seen you around for ages," she exclaimed, reminding me of how she and I used to gossip merrily away during our son's rugby matches every Saturday morning. And I was instantly reminded of how I've been living on Mars for the past 24 months. Or at least that's how it feels. I feel like a stranger returning to an old familiar place, mixing with old familiar faces. A few knew a little bit of what we'd been through, but others had no idea, and she was one of the latter. I seemed to spend yesterday avoiding people because I just didn't want to talk about our experiences, not to the so-called uninitiated at any rate. Unless you've actually left planet Earth to live on Mars, you can't possibly know what it's like, and there's so much misinformation about anorexia and other eating disorders that it's not like talking about high-profile illnesses. And I really didn't want to, A, sound as if I was dumping all my troubles on her by going on and on about it, or B, spent hours educating her on the ins and outs of eating disorders. From experience, I've found that talking about eating disorders is often met by the kind of reaction that religious cranks get when talking about hellfire and damnation, or some other subject that makes people feel awkward and want to run a mile. But thankfully, she was different and she seemed genuinely interested. Unlike most people, she didn't automatically assume eating disorders could be cured simply by getting the sufferer to eat more, or that the sufferer must be a faddy, fussy eater, or whatever. Nor did she automatically assume that anorexia is simply a diet gone too far. "He's still very thin," I pointed out as we gazed towards where our 2 sons stood talking on the playing field. Her son, the picture of a strapping, sporty 17-year-old, and my son, the picture of, well, something rather thinner. Together we had watched our sons play rugby on those fields every winter Saturday morning for 5 years. Our sons had been good friends, yet rivals on the rugby pitch. They had been equally good at the game, both were forwards, and had been of a similar athletic build. In the classroom, they had always been top of the class. Sometimes it was my son who came top, and at other times it was hers. Ben used to go around to their house to play, and her son used to come round to ours. But all that stopped 2 summers ago when Ben started to exhibit the first signs of anorexia. And as her son continued school, sports and social life as normal, my son didn't. And with this change, our regular gossips at sports events stopped, which is why I hadn't talked to her since we last sat on that grassy bank at the school sports day in 2009, just before our family took off to Mars or somewhere equally alien for 2 years. and why it felt so strange talking to her again, explaining where Ben and we as a family had been for the past 2 years, i.e. to hell and back, while her family life and school life carried on as normal. That's the end of that post. Thank you for listening. You'll find a link below to my blog, and you'll also find a link to my website where you can download free PDFs of my blog, and also a link to Amazon where you can buy a copy of my book.